The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Floating platforms held representatives from 847 different worlds. Some breathed methane, others lived in liquid tanks, and a few existed as pure energy contained in crystal shells. Despite their differences, they all shared one thing today: anger toward humanity. Director Sarah Chen sat in the human section, her hands folded calmly on the metal table. She wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's symbol on her shoulder. Around her, alien voices spoke in dozens of languages. But the translation devices made everything clear. They were all saying the same thing: humans had to go. The Zephyrian ambassador stood first. His tall, thin body swayed like a tree in the wind as he spoke. Honored council members, humanity has broken 17 major laws in just 50 years. They terraform planets without permission. They mine asteroids that belong to other species. They expand too fast and ask questions later. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. Chen watched without changing her expression. Next came the representative from the Vorthon Collective. The crystal being's voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. We welcomed humans into our community. We taught them our technologies. We shared our trade routes. How do they repay us? By ignoring every rule we have built over thousands of years. More voices joined in. The Kalari spoke of human ships entering forbidden space. The Nexus Confederation complained about human colonies appearing overnight on worlds they had claimed. The Hydran Empire accused humans of stealing their mining techniques and improving them without permission. Chen listened to it all. She had expected this day for years. Earth's government had prepared for it too. The Council's Chief Justice, an ancient being called the Eternal Speaker, raised one massive tentacle for silence. His voice boomed across the hall like thunder. We have heard the accusations. Humanity stands charged with violation of galactic law, disrespect for established boundaries, and dangerous expansion without proper oversight. How does Earth respond? Chen stood slowly. Every eye, sensor, and energy field focused on her. The hall became perfectly quiet. We respond that we are guilty, she said simply. Shocked gasps echoed from hundreds of platforms. The Eternal Speaker's tentacles writhed in surprise. You admit to these crimes? We admit to everything, Chen continued. We terraform worlds because we need places to live. We mine asteroids because we need resources. We expand quickly because that is what humans do. We have never hidden any of this from you. The Zephyrian ambassador's voice shook with anger. Then you show no remorse. You feel no shame for breaking our laws. Chen turned to face him directly. Your laws were made by species that take centuries to make simple decisions. You debate for decades about whether to explore a new star system. You form committees to think about forming committees. We cannot live that way. Then you cannot live here, shouted the Vorthon representative. The hall erupted in angry voices. Aliens demanded immediate action. Some called for human ships to be seized. Others wanted human colonies destroyed. A few even suggested putting all humans in prison. The Eternal Speaker slammed his tentacle on his platform like a giant gavel. Silence. We will vote according to proper procedure. The voting took 3 hours. Each world's representative had to stand, state their planet's name, and announce their choice. Chen counted carefully as the results appeared on the massive displays above the hall. Vote after vote went against humanity. The Andorian Republic voted for banishment. The Centauri Alliance demanded exile. The Rigel Federation wanted humans gone forever. Only a few worlds abstained, and even fewer voted to let humans stay. When the final count appeared, the numbers glowed red across every screen. 723 votes for banishment, 89 abstentions, 35 votes against. The decision was overwhelming. The Eternal Speaker's voice filled the hall once more. By the ancient laws of this council, humanity is hereby banished from galactic civilization. All trade agreements are canceled. All access to hyperspace lanes is revoked. All diplomatic relations are severed. Humanity has 50 standard days to remove all personnel and equipment from council space. Chen nodded once and reached for the communication device on her wrist. The small quantum transmitter connected her instantly to Earth, 30,000 light-years away. Execute Protocol Exodus, she said quietly into the device. Full implementation. Begin immediately. The alien representatives closest to her heard the words but did not understand their meaning. They would learn soon enough. The Eternal Speaker continued reading the formal banishment order. Furthermore, any human ship found in Council space after the 50-day period will be considered an act of war. Any attempt to establish contact before the 50-year exile period ends will result in immediate military action. Chen stood and walked toward the exit. Behind her, aliens celebrated their victory. They talked about how peace would finally return to the galaxy. They discussed dividing up human territories and technologies. They made plans for a future without the troublesome species from Earth. As Chen reached the hall's massive doors, the Eternal Speaker called out to her. "Director Chen, does humanity have any final words for this council?" She stopped and turned back to face the thousands of alien representatives. Her voice carried clearly across the vast space without any amplification. "Yes," she said. "Thank you." The aliens looked confused. They had expected anger, pleas for mercy, or threats of revenge. They had not expected gratitude. "Thank you for showing us exactly what you think of humanity," Chen continued. "Thank you for making this choice for us. And thank you for giving us 50 days instead of making us wait around while you debate the decision for another decade." She paused at the doorway and smiled. It was not a happy smile. "You wanted us gone and we are leaving. But remember this day, because you will never see our like again. What comes back, if anything comes back, will be something very different." The doors closed behind her with a soft hiss. In the hall, the celebration continued, but some of the voices sounded less certain than before. A few representatives wondered if they had made the right choice. The Eternal Speaker stared at the closed doors for a long time, his ancient mind trying to understand the humans' final words. On Earth, Protocol Exodus was already beginning. Every human ship in space received the same message. Every colony got identical orders. Every diplomatic station and trading post started the same procedures. Humanity did not argue with the galaxy's decision. They did not try to negotiate or ask for more time. They simply began to leave, taking with them everything they had brought to galactic civilization. The aliens had voted to banish Earth. They thought they were getting rid of a problem. They had no idea they were about to lose something far more valuable than they realized. More importantly, they had no idea what humanity would become once they were free from galactic rules and limitations. The 50-day countdown had begun. In 50 days, there would be no humans left in Council space. But what would happen after that would surprise everyone, especially the aliens who thought they had won. The first sign that something unusual was happening came 12 hours after the Council vote. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of the destroyer Yamato, watching her crew work with machine-like efficiency. Around them, the massive human shipyard orbiting Proxima Centauri buzzed with activity unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Demolition teams report ready on all sections," her first officer announced. "Plasma charges are set. We can begin controlled destruction on your command." Tanaka nodded. Through the bridge windows, she could see hundreds of alien ships watching from a safe distance. They had come to witness humanity's departure, but what they saw confused them greatly. The humans were not just leaving. They were erasing themselves completely. "All human personnel have evacuated to transport ships," another officer reported. "The shipyard is empty except for our demolition crews." This shipyard had been humanity's pride in the Proxima system. It could build 50 starships at once and had revolutionized ship construction across the galaxy. Many alien species had copied its design. Some had even hired human engineers to build similar facilities for them. Now, after only 2 days of work, the humans were about to destroy it all. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "the Centauri Trade Federation is asking us to reconsider. They say they will pay us triple the shipyard's value if we leave it intact." Tanaka smiled coldly. "Tell them the shipyard was built with human knowledge and human resources. It belongs to humanity, and humanity alone decides what happens to it." She turned to her demolition chief. "Begin destruction sequence." The explosion was beautiful and terrible. Plasma charges detonated in perfect coordination, turning metal and crystal into glowing dust. The shipyard that had taken 10 years to build vanished in 10 minutes. The alien observers watched in shock as humanity destroyed something worth more than most planets. But the shipyard was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. Human colonies didn't just pack up and leave. They systematically dismantled everything they had built. Terraforming equipment was reduced to component atoms. Mining operations were shut down and their machinery destroyed. Even simple buildings were torn. Apart rather than left behind, Dr. Elizabeth Grant supervised the evacuation of New Tokyo Colony on Kepler 442b. The planet had been a barren rock when humans arrived 30 years ago. Now it bloomed with earth plants and supported 2 million colonists. The transformation had been humanity's gift to the galaxy, proof that dead worlds could live again. The atmospheric processors are ready for destruction, her assistant reported. The biodome generators are set to overload. We can trigger everything at once. Grant looked out at the green fields and blue skies her team had created. It hurt to destroy so much beauty, but she understood the larger plan. The council wanted us gone, she said quietly. They didn't want our gifts. They only wanted us to disappear. So we'll give them exactly what they asked for. The alien delegation from Kepler watched in horror as the humans destroyed their own miracle. The atmospheric processors that had given the planet breathable air exploded in brilliant flashes. The biodome generators that maintained the ecosystem overloaded and melted. Within hours, the green world began turning brown as the artificial atmosphere started to fail. "You are monsters," screamed the Keplerian ambassador. "This world was perfect. You have murdered an entire planet." Grant turned to face him as her evacuation ship prepared to depart. "We made this world perfect and we can unmake it. You voted to banish us. Did you think we would leave our work behind for you to profit from?" But the most shocking destruction came from an unexpected source. The Altarian Shipping Consortium had built their entire trade network around human-designed quantum processors. These processors allowed ships to navigate hyperspace with incredible precision, cutting travel time between stars by 70%. The Altarians owned the processors, but they had never understood how they worked. Human engineers had simply installed them and provided basic maintenance instructions. The alien technicians could operate the devices but could not repair or replace them. Captain Wei Lu commanded the technical support ship Beijing. His mission was simple but devastating: retrieve every quantum processor humans had ever installed and wipe all technical documentation from alien computer systems. Team Alpha has secured the processors from the Vega hub, his engineer reported. Team Beta is finishing work at the Arcturus junction. All alien copies of our technical manuals have been deleted. What about the backup files? Lu asked. Destroyed. We also removed the quantum crystalline matrices that store the navigation algorithms. Without those, their ships cannot calculate hyperspace jumps accurately. Lu watched alien cargo ships struggling to reach basic destinations that had been simple the day before. Some were lost in hyperspace, unable to find their way without human guidance systems. Others limped along on conventional engines that would take months to reach nearby stars. The Altarian trade minister contacted Lu directly, his voice desperate. "Captain Lu, please reconsider. Our entire economy depends on these processors. We will give you anything: money, territory, even voting rights in our government." Lu's response was broadcast on all frequencies so every alien ship could hear it. "You had voting rights in the Galactic Council. You used them to banish us. Now you want to bargain? The time for bargaining was before you voted." The systematic destruction continued for weeks. Human scientists deleted research data that had advanced galactic medicine by centuries. Human engineers removed improvements they had made to alien technology. Human farmers destroyed crop strains that could have fed billions. But perhaps the most symbolic destruction happened on Earth's moon. The Luna City Memorial had honored the first contact between humans and aliens 50 years earlier. The beautiful crystal structure had been a gift to commemorate galactic friendship and cooperation. Commander Sarah Chen, now leading the evacuation from Earth itself, stood before the memorial with a plasma cutter in her hands. Alien news crews from across the galaxy watched her prepare to destroy the symbol of human-alien relations. 50 years ago, my grandmother helped build this memorial, Chen said to the cameras. She believed that humans and aliens could work together, that we could learn from each other and build something better than either of us could create alone. She activated the plasma cutter, and the crystal began to melt. Today, the galaxy has shown us that cooperation was never what they wanted. They wanted us to be quiet, obedient, and grateful for whatever scraps they threw us. They wanted us to follow their rules, think their thoughts, and dream their small dreams. The memorial collapsed into glowing fragments. We refuse. If the galaxy wants us gone, we will go. But we take everything we brought with us, and we leave nothing behind but the memory of what you have lost. The evacuation fleet gathered at the edge of Council space on the 49th day. Thousands of human ships formed the largest migration in galactic history. They carried not just people, but every piece of human knowledge, every invention, every innovation that had been shared with alien civilization. Admiral Chen sent one final message to the Galactic Council before the fleet departed. You have 47 hours to discover what your civilization looks like without humanity. We suggest you use that time wisely, because it will be a very long time before you see us again. The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, heading for the empty regions beyond Council territory. Behind them, they left a galaxy that was already beginning to discover what it had lost. Ships could not navigate properly. Medical treatment stopped working. Mining operations ground to a halt. Trade networks collapsed. The aliens had gotten exactly what they voted for, a galaxy without humans. They were about to learn that this was not the victory they had imagined. Dr. Marcus Webb floated in zero gravity, watching something impossible happen outside his laboratory window. In the distance, a star was moving, not drifting slowly through space like stars normally did, but actually changing its position in a controlled, deliberate way. 5 years had passed since humanity left Council space. 5 years of freedom from galactic laws and restrictions. 5 years of unlimited experimentation in the region aliens called the Empty Quarter. Stellar Engine 7 is responding perfectly to navigation commands, his assistant reported. We should reach the target coordinates in another 6 months. Webb smiled. The first time he had suggested moving a star, his colleagues thought he was insane. The Galactic Council had strict laws against stellar manipulation. They said it was too dangerous, too unpredictable, too likely to cause problems for other species. But there were no other species in the Empty Quarter. No one to complain when humans decided to rearrange the neighborhood. How is the planet formation project coming along? Webb asked, ahead of schedule. We have successfully created 12 new worlds using compressed matter from the stellar construction process. Each one is perfectly positioned for human habitation. The humans had not just learned to move stars, they had learned to make custom solar systems. Need more light for your planets? Move the star closer. Want to add another world? Compress some stellar matter and shape it into exactly what you need. Want to eliminate dangerous radiation? Install a magnetic field generator the size of a moon. It was engineering on a scale the galaxy had never imagined. But stellar engineering was just one of humanity's new achievements. Dr. Kenji Nakamura worked in a laboratory where time moved differently than the rest of the universe. His team had cracked the secret of temporal manipulation, creating acceleration fields that let them complete decades of research in mere weeks. The consciousness transfer experiment is ready for final testing, Nakamura announced to his team. We can now move a human mind from one body to another with perfect accuracy. This technology would have been banned immediately in Council space. The galactic authorities believed that consciousness transfer was too dangerous to allow. They worried about people living forever, about minds being copied, about the social problems such technology might create. Humans had decided to solve those problems as they came up, rather than never trying at all. Admiral Rosa Martinez commanded the breakthrough fleet from the bridge of her flagship, the Endeavour. Her mission was simple but profound. Explore beyond the galactic rim and make contact with species the Council had never discovered. Contact established with the Harmony Collective, her communications officer reported. They are willing to begin formal negotiations. Martinez nodded. The Harmony Collective was the third new species her fleet had encountered. Unlike the rigid bureaucratic races of the Council, these beings were curious, flexible, and eager to learn. They reminded her of humans in many ways. The collective leaders want to know about our technology, the officer continued. They are particularly interested in our stellar engines and temporal acceleration fields. Share everything, Martinez ordered. Full technical specifications, complete research data, and training materials. If they want to learn, we will teach them. This was another way humans had changed. In Council space, every species guarded their technology jealously. Patents and trade secrets were more valuable than gold. Knowledge was power, and power was never shared freely. Humans had learned a different lesson from their exile. Knowledge shared was knowledge multiplied. The more species that could build stellar engines, the more stars could be moved. The more minds that worked on temporal acceleration, the faster they could solve the remaining problems. Meanwhile, Dr. Sarah Kim worked on humanity's most ambitious project yet, cracking the secrets of zero-point energy. Her laboratory orbited an artificial black hole that her team had created. Specifically for their experiments, we are extracting more energy from quantum fluctuations than we ever thought possible, she reported to the High Council of New Earth. At current rates, we could power every human settlement for 1,000 years with a generator the size of a city block. The High Council met in a space station that existed partially outside normal space-time. The structure phased between dimensions, allowing it to be in multiple locations at once. Its technology was so advanced that most council species would not even recognize it as artificial. Fleet Commander Sarah Chen, now leader of the Human Stellar Federation, listened to reports from across human space. The numbers were staggering. In 5 years, humanity had built more worlds than they had colonized in 50 years under galactic law. They had made more scientific breakthroughs than in their entire previous history. They had contacted more new species than the Council had discovered in centuries. What is our current population? Chen asked. Approaching 8 billion spread across 234 worlds, the population coordinator replied. Growth rate is accelerating as we perfect consciousness transfer and life extension technologies. Military status? All fleets are equipped with dimensional phase technology. Our weapons can strike targets across multiple realities simultaneously. Our defenses can shift our entire civilization into parallel dimensions if threatened. Chen nodded. Humanity had not just grown in the empty quarter, they had evolved. The species that had been banished from galactic civilization bore little resemblance to the species that now called themselves the Human Stellar Federation. But their greatest achievement was not technological. It was philosophical. Dr. Michael Torres led a team of scientists, philosophers, and engineers working on what they called the Transcendence Project. Their goal was to understand consciousness itself and push the boundaries of what it meant to be human. We have successfully created hybrid consciousnesses that exist simultaneously in biological and artificial substrates, Torres reported. These beings can think at computer speeds while maintaining human creativity and intuition. What about the collective consciousness experiments? Chen asked, progressing rapidly. We can now link multiple minds together temporarily, allowing groups to think as one while maintaining individual identity. The implications for scientific research and problem-solving are extraordinary. These experiments would have horrified the galactic authorities. They had strict laws about genetic modification, artificial intelligence, and consciousness manipulation. They believed such research was inherently dangerous and potentially evil. Humans had decided that the only true evil was limiting the potential of intelligent life. The transformation was not without challenges. Some humans struggled with the rapid changes. Others worried about losing their humanity in the pursuit of transcendence. A few even wanted to return to the simpler life they had known in council space, but the vast majority embraced their new existence. They had tasted freedom, and they found it intoxicating. Chen stood on the observation deck of her command station, looking out at a sky filled with moving stars and impossible structures. Humans were building a ring world around a star they had moved specifically for that purpose. Temporal acceleration fields made the construction proceed at incredible speed. Ships phased in and out of dimensions as they carried materials from across the galaxy. It was a sight that would have driven most council species insane with fear. To them, it would have looked like reality itself was breaking down. To humans, it looked like home. Admiral, her aide approached carefully. We are receiving strange signals from the direction of council space. Long-range sensors indicate major disturbances in several star systems. Chen turned from the window. What kind of disturbances? Unknown but massive. Entire systems are going dark. The signals suggest some kind of conflict, but not between council species. Something else. Chen felt a cold certainty settle in her stomach. The galaxy that had banished humanity was in trouble. Big trouble. The kind of trouble that would normally send them running to the most advanced military force they could find. But the most advanced military force in the galaxy was no longer part of galactic civilization. Continue monitoring, Chen ordered, but take no action without my direct authorization. She returned to watching the construction project. Humans had learned to live without the galaxy that rejected them. Soon, that galaxy might learn whether it could live without the humans it had banished. The empty quarter was no longer empty. It was home to something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization that had transcended every limitation that had ever been placed upon it. The Eternal Speaker had lived for 3,000 years, but he had never seen fear like this in the Galactic Council chambers. The ancient being's tentacles trembled as he read the latest reports from the outer rim worlds. Entire star systems were simply vanishing from all sensors, as if they had never existed at all. "The Kepler Federation has gone completely silent," announced the Zephyrian ambassador, his tall form swaying with distress. Their last transmission spoke of massive ships that seemed to eat light itself. "The Rigel colonies are evacuating their entire population," added the Vorthan representative, her crystal body flickering with nervous energy. "They report that these devourers can consume matter and energy at an impossible rate." 23 years had passed since humanity's banishment. The galaxy had learned to function without human technology, though it had been difficult and expensive. Trade routes took longer to navigate without human quantum processors. Medical treatments were less effective without human research. Mining operations were slower without human efficiency improvements. But the aliens had adapted. They had told themselves they were better off without the troublesome humans and their reckless ways. Now, faced with an enemy that their combined fleets could not even slow down, they were beginning to realize what they had lost. Admiral Kextar of the Andorian Defense Force stood before the emergency assembly. His blue skin was pale with exhaustion. He had been fighting the Devourers for 6 months without a single victory. "Honored Council," he began, his voice hoarse from countless battle reports, "our conventional weapons are completely ineffective. The enemy ships absorb energy attacks and seem to grow stronger from them. Physical projectiles pass through their hulls as if they were firing at ghosts. We have lost 437 vessels without destroying a single enemy craft." Murmurs of panic rippled through the assembly. The Andorian fleet was considered the most powerful military force in the galaxy. If they could not even damage these devourers, what hope did anyone else have? "What do we know about their origin?" asked the Eternal Speaker. "They come from beyond the galactic barrier," Kextar replied. "Our long-range scouts detected them approximately 1 year ago, but by the time we understood the threat, they had already consumed the outer rim colonies. They appear to be some form of artificial intelligence, but unlike anything in our databases." The Centauri Trade Federation representative stood up, his insectoid form clicking nervously. "Surely our combined fleets can overwhelm them through sheer numbers." "We tried that at the Battle of Vega Prime," Kextar said grimly. 800 ships from 12 different species. The Devourers destroyed our entire force in less than 4 hours. They seem to become more efficient as they encounter resistance. Fear settled over the chamber like a fog. These beings had faced many threats over the millennia, but always as part of a vast, powerful civilization. The idea that something could simply sweep away their fleets like insects was almost impossible to comprehend. "What about negotiation?" suggested the Kalari ambassador. "Perhaps these devourers want something we can provide." "They do not respond to any form of communication," Kextar replied. "They show no interest in conquest, negotiation, or even domination. They simply consume everything in their path and move on to the next system." The Eternal Speaker's tentacles writhed as he considered their options. In his 3,000 years of life, he had never felt so helpless. Every solution the Council had ever used, diplomacy, trade agreements, military alliances, economic pressure, was meaningless against an enemy that simply wanted to destroy everything. Then a young aide approached the speaker's platform with a message pad. The ancient being read it quickly and his massive form went very still. "What is it?" asked several representatives at once. The Eternal Speaker's voice was barely above a whisper. "Long-range communications has detected activity in the empty quarter. Massive energy signatures, ships moving at impossible speeds, and the signals have a distinctly human origin." The chamber erupted in desperate voices. Some aliens shouted that it was impossible. Humans had been gone for over 20 years. Others insisted that any human survivors would be too primitive to help. A few wondered if the humans had somehow caused this crisis, but many remembered the final words Director Chen had spoken before humanity's departure. "What comes back? If anything comes back, will be something very different." The debate raged for hours until the Eternal Speaker called for silence. "The question is not whether humans still exist," he said heavily. "The question is whether we are desperate enough to ask for their help." The Zephyrian ambassador stood up angrily. We banished them for good reason. They were reckless, dangerous, and unwilling to follow civilized laws. Even if they could help us, do we really want to invite chaos back into our galaxy? Chaos? The Vorthon representative's crystal form blazed with indignation. Look around you. We are facing the extinction of our entire civilization. How much more chaotic could things become? The argument continued, but it was interrupted by an emergency alert. Every screen in the chamber displayed the same horrifying image. The Devourer fleet had reached the core worlds. Earth's old solar system, now occupied by a Centauri research station, was under attack. The aliens watched in real time as the massive, dark ships appeared around Sol. The Centauri defenders fired everything they had, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the enemy vessels. Within minutes, the research station was gone. The planets themselves began to dim as the Devourers fed on their energy. Send the message, the Eternal Speaker said quietly. Sir? Asked his aide. Send a communication toward the empty quarter. Full spectrum broadcast on all frequencies. Tell them the galaxy needs their help. The message was crafted carefully by the Council's best diplomats. It acknowledged past mistakes without admitting fault. It offered generous terms for human return without appearing desperate. It promised a new era of cooperation without specifically saying what that meant. The response came faster than anyone expected. Not in hours or days, but in minutes. And it came from everywhere at once. Every screen in the galaxy activated simultaneously. Every communication device, from the most advanced quantum arrays to simple personal communicators, displayed the same image. A human woman in armor that seemed to bend light around itself. Behind her stood others whose equipment was clearly far beyond anything the Council had ever seen. I am Fleet Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Stellar Federation, the figure said. Her voice carried across 1,000 worlds with perfect clarity. We have received your request for assistance. The aliens stared in shock. This was not the primitive refugee they had expected. The technology visible in the background was incomprehensible. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Weapons that looked like captured pieces of stars. Soldiers whose armor seemed to phase in and out of reality. 23 years ago, you decided you no longer wanted us in your galaxy, Chen continued. You found us too dangerous, too reckless, too unwilling to accept limitations. Today, you discover the difference between dangers you can control and dangers you cannot. The image shifted to show the Devourer fleet. But now human ships were visible around them. Ships that hurt to look at directly as if they existed in more dimensions than normal space could contain. Your enemy consumes matter and energy, Chen said calmly. Our weapons manipulate the fundamental forces that hold reality together. Your fleets fight in 3 dimensions. Our forces operate across multiple levels of existence simultaneously. You see an unstoppable threat. We see an interesting engineering problem. The Eternal Speaker managed to find his voice. Commander Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally request assistance against this threat. We are prepared to offer significant compensation and a full restoration of human citizenship. Chen's expression did not change. You mistake us for the species you banished. We are not those humans anymore. We have become something you could not even imagine 23 years ago. The image shifted again, showing impossible structures. Stars moving in formation, planets being built from raw energy, space itself being folded and shaped like clay. But, Chen continued, we remember what we once were, and that memory includes a sense of responsibility for the galaxy that gave us our first glimpse of the larger universe. Hope flickered in alien hearts across the galaxy. We will deal with your Devourer problem, Chen said finally, not because you asked, but because it needs to be dealt with. Watch carefully. You are about to see what humanity has become. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. Outside the council chambers, alarms were ringing as reports flooded in from the core worlds. The human fleet had arrived, and the final battle was about to begin. The battle for the galactic core lasted exactly 6 hours and 17 minutes. But to the aliens watching from across the galaxy, it felt like witnessing the birth of a new universe. Admiral Kextar stood on the bridge of his flagship at the edge of the Sol system, his blue skin pale with shock. Around him, his crew stared at sensor readings that made no sense. The human fleet had not arrived in normal space. They had simply begun existing where they needed to be. "How many ships are we detecting?" he asked his sensor operator. I cannot give you an accurate count, sir. The readings suggest anywhere from 50 to 50,000 vessels. They seem to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Kexitar had fought in hundreds of battles, but he had never seen anything like this. The human ships hurt to look at directly. They appeared as geometric shapes that changed depending on the angle of observation. Some looked like twisted metal, others like crystallized energy, and a few seemed to be made of folded space itself. But it was not the ships that made him afraid. It was what they were doing to the Devourers. The enemy vessels that had swept through galactic defenses like they were paper targets were being systematically dismantled. Not destroyed, dismantled. Human weapons reached into the Devourer ships and simply turned off whatever force held them together. The massive dark hulls collapsed into component atoms that drifted away like dust. "Sir," his communications officer reported, voice shaking, "we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet commander." Fleet Commander Sarah Chen appeared on the main screen. But this was not the same person who had spoken to the council hours earlier. Her armor was different now, more complex, more alive. It seemed to respond to her thoughts, shifting and changing as she moved. "Admiral Kekstar," she said, somehow knowing exactly who she was addressing despite never having met him. "Your fleet will maintain current position. Do not attempt to assist or interfere. We will handle this situation." "Commander Chen," Kekstar managed to reply, "my orders are to defend this system. I cannot simply stand by while—" "Your weapons cannot affect these enemies," Chen interrupted. "Your ships cannot survive in the dimensional spaces where this battle is taking place. You will observe and learn, nothing more." The transmission ended before Kekstar could respond. He watched helplessly as human forces engaged the Devourers on multiple levels of reality simultaneously. Some ships fought in normal space, others phased through dimensions he could not even detect. Energy weapons fired across impossible distances, striking targets that existed in entirely different planes of existence. The Devourers, unstoppable for months, were being systematically eliminated. But the humans were not simply overpowering them. They were learning from them, adapting to them, improving their own technology in real time based on what they discovered. Dr. Elizabeth Grant, now wearing the enhanced neural interface that connected her directly to the human collective consciousness, analyzed Devourer technology as it was captured. Her mind worked at computer speeds while maintaining human intuition and creativity. "Fascinating," she reported to the Fleet Command. "These entities are not alive in any traditional sense. They are self-replicating quantum machines designed to consume energy and matter, to create more of themselves." "Origin?" asked Fleet Commander Chen. "Definitely artificial, but ancient, possibly millions of years old. They appear to be the remnant of a dead civilization's attempt to preserve itself through mechanical reproduction." "Weaknesses?" Grant's enhanced consciousness processed terabytes of data in seconds. "They are designed to consume conventional matter and energy, but they cannot process the exotic matter we use in our dimensional weapons. More importantly, they have no defense against temporal displacement attacks." Chen nodded. Around her, human ships began implementing new tactics based on Grant's analysis. Time itself became a weapon as human forces created temporal distortion fields that aged Devourer ships thousands of years in seconds. Others used probability, manipulation to ensure that every shot struck vulnerable, points that had not even existed moments before. But the most devastating attack came from humanity's newest capability, reality. Engineering. Dr. Marcus Webb, his consciousness now existing simultaneously in biological and artificial substrates, coordinated an assault that attacked the mathematical foundations of space-time itself. Human ships reached into the quantum foam that underlied reality and simply deleted the physical laws that allowed Devourer technology to function. Within the affected areas, the speed of light changed. Gravity worked backwards. The strong nuclear force became weak, and the weak force became strong. The Devourers, dependent on consistent physical laws for their operation, simply ceased to exist. From his observation post, Admiral Kekstar watched reality bend and twist around the human fleet. Space itself rippled like water. Stars flickered between different colors as their nuclear fusion processes were temporarily altered. For brief moments he could see through normal space into other dimensions where additional battles raged. "Sir," his sensor operator reported in a voice barely above a whisper. The enemy fleet is gone. All Devourer vessels in this system have been eliminated. But even as the immediate threat ended, new reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The humans were not content to fight a single battle. Their fleet had somehow split itself across dozens of star systems simultaneously, attacking every Devourer force in the galaxy at once. The final Devourer ship was eliminated near the galactic rim exactly 6 hours and 17 minutes after the battle began. The threat that had consumed hundreds of worlds and killed billions of beings was simply over. Fleet Commander Chen stood in the rebuilt council chambers on Galactic Central. But she had not come to rejoin galactic civilization. The building itself had been reconstructed by human technology in a matter of hours, demonstrating capabilities that left the alien representatives speechless. The Eternal Speaker, his ancient tentacles trembling with a mixture of awe and fear, attempted to find words for what had just occurred. Commander Chen, on behalf of all galactic civilization, I thank you for saving us from extinction. Please tell us what we can do to repay this debt. Chen's expression remained perfectly calm. Around her, other humans stood in armor that seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. Their technology was so advanced that most aliens could not even look at it directly without feeling dizzy. You owe us nothing, Chen replied. We did not save you for gratitude or payment. We eliminated the Devourers because they represented a threat to the ordered development of intelligent life in this region of space. But surely, the Zephyrian ambassador interjected desperately, humanity will return to take its rightful place in galactic civilization? We have learned from our mistakes. We understand now how valuable you are. Chen turned to look at him directly. When she did, he could see something in her eyes that had not been there 23 years ago, a depth of knowledge and experience that seemed infinite. You still do not understand, she said quietly. We are not the humans you banished. We have become something beyond your current ability to comprehend. We exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. We manipulate time, space, and the fundamental forces of reality as easily as you manipulate simple tools. We have transcended every limitation that once defined us. She gestured toward the window, where human ships were visible phasing in and out of normal space-time. More importantly, we have learned that the galaxy you represent is too small for what we have become. Your laws, your territories, your concepts of proper behavior, they are all based on limitations we no longer accept. The Vorthon representative's crystal form flickered with confusion. Then why did you help us at all? Because we remember being small, Chen replied. We remember when this galaxy seemed vast and full of wonders. We remember our first glimpse of alien civilizations and the hope that we might learn from them. She paused, looking around the chamber at representatives from hundreds of worlds. We also remember being told that we had no place here. The Eternal Speaker's voice was barely audible. What happens now? Will humanity establish colonies, trade agreements, some form of relationship with our civilization? Chen smiled, but it was not a warm expression. No. We will return to our own space beyond the boundaries you once considered absolute. We will continue our growth, our exploration, our evolution into something greater than what we are today. But, she continued, we will remember what we learned here, about cooperation and conflict, about the difference between civilization and mere order, about the price of rejecting those who think differently than you do. She turned toward the exit, and the other humans began to follow. Wait, called the Eternal Speaker desperately. What if we face another threat? What if something else comes that we cannot handle alone? Chen stopped at the doorway and looked back one final time. Then you will handle it yourselves, she said, or you will not. But you will never again have the option of rejecting help and then demanding it when convenient. She paused at the threshold. However, if you ever grow beyond what you are today, if you ever become something more than a collection of fearful civilizations hiding behind ancient laws, you are welcome to look for us. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.